Hi, this is Jerry Edmon. Glad to be with you today. You know, a couple of years ago, I determined I needed to go get in shape, and we really didn't want to go join the gym, so we just thought, well, maybe we could just start walking. And so we would get up early in the morning and go to the high school. They had a track there at the high school that you could walk or you could run, and really nice track. So we would go and just try to hit a mile or two, walking or running. And and my wife and I, as we were going around the track, the high school had left their hurdles out on the track. Some of the hurdlers there at the school, they just apparently didn't put them up, so they were left out there all night. So when we got there, I walked around a couple of times, and then I determined I'm going to jump the hurdle. So I took off running and jumped, and I actually did make it over, but she just looked at me and said, I don't think that's what it's supposed to look like. It was more of a hop than it was a jump. It certainly didn't look like somebody that was intentionally hurdling. And so I began to think about that. I mean, it was just, I couldn't get away from it. And I realized something, kind of a application here that really stuck in my mind. And that's the fact that hurdles aren't bad if you're a hurdler. But most people, almost all people, find it difficult and cumbersome to try to jump hurdles. And the application was this. This generation places a strong emphasis on being user-friendly, convenience, quick accessibility, and they're not going to jump too many hurdles to get to you. This society today instinctively resists anything that becomes too difficult or complicated or just kind of out of date. And if people have to jump a number of hurdles to get to you, they become discouraged, they become frustrated, and they end up going someplace else. Now, here's what I want to say to you. We place hurdles between us and the people that we want to draw into our lives through wrong attitudes, slothfulness, negligence. I mean, the list goes on and on. They have to hurdle our outdated appearances, our bad breath, our bad habits just to get to us. See, hurdles, they define us. If you allow hurdles in your life, if you put something in your life that someone has to hop over or climb over to get to you, those things kind of define you. You become identified by them. And you know what I'm talking about. Statements like, well, he's always late. Or, you can never depend on him to keep his word. You can never depend on him to keep his time. Or, dang, he's got a bad temper. And people have to hurdle those things to get to us. And we want them to come. We want them to buy our product. We want them to be our friend or whatever the case is. But they have to hurdle those things to get to us. I know a wonderful pastor of a church, a great guy, very gifted, incredible speaker, but he's kind of a slob. His appearance and his church just seems very unkempt most of the time. And by the time people get over these obstacles to get to him, they're just frustrated and they don't leave. So how can I say this? They can't see him and his gifts and his talents for all the hurdles that they have to climb over to get to really see him and his giftings. And I just want to say concerning the church, dear Lord, I mean, if your church or your business or whatever it is ceases to be successful, there are reasons. See, success leaves a trail, but so does failure. And I think a lot of times that's seen in the form of the things that we have in our life that make it difficult for people to get to us. It's just, they just don't understand. Well, no, it could be your music. It could be how clean you are, your discipline, your stewardship, your kindness, your friendliness. I mean, how many restaurants have I gone into and because they were not kind or they weren't sensitive to me as a customer, and I thought, I'm not coming back here anymore. Or you walk in and the smell is bad. That may just be a instance that's only, one time. But the fact is, that became a hurdle for me. Childcare, that's a hurdle for me. See, people see your hurdles before they see you. Now, someone might suggest that it's what's on the inside that counts. And I agree. It should be, because obviously there's more to you than that one thing. But the fact is, that's the way life is. When you found your mate, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you didn't say it was what's on the inside that counts. That's not what drew you to them. There were things about them that might have repelled you or whatever. But the fact is, people see your hurdles before they see your heart. And I think this is one of the greatest life lessons that explains why we do or don't draw people into our lives. See, you have to understand that a leader only draws people who are willing to jump the same hurdles that he'll jump. In other words, he can handle being late, so can the people he draws. They're never on time for anything. He can handle poor bookkeeping, so can the people he draws. That's the way they do it at home. But for most people, there's always a problem when they come up to hurdles in someone's lives. And you have to take this into account when you're trying to figure why you can't draw the people that you're trying to reach out to. Now, let me tell you another problem with hurdles, and this is something that's very deceptive. We tend to go blind after we look at them for a while. I mean, you literally stop seeing them. You quit noticing how bad the building looks, how much junk is on the front porch, or how outdated your clothes looks. I mean, seriously, you can put a box in the middle of your living room, and I'm not saying that you won't ever see it again, but you stop seeing it. For a while, it's a little bit of a problem being there, but you get to the place that you kind of build your life around it and you stop seeing it. And that's the way hurdles become in our life. Suddenly, we've got so many hurdles and we can't figure what's going on. Now, you should say, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not that way. Perception is reality to the people who see things and they count them as failures and shortcomings in your life. Now, you might say, well, that's not how I am. But the people who see that, they don't know them. Perception is reality to them, even though the perception may not be true. To them, their perception is reality. To them, that's how you really are. Now you might stop and say, well, how the heck did I get this hurdle in my life? I mean, I didn't start out with that. I mean, none of us have hurdles in our life when we start out. Unless it's just been handed to us from another generation. But for the most part, we should have a clean slate with how we do things. But most of us have done something that I want to talk to you about for just a second. We've fallen into destructive routines. Those routines create habits. Habits allow us to do all kinds of things without really much thought. That's why we have so many of them. Habits aren't instincts. Habits are acquired reactions. I mean, they're caused. First, we form our habits, and then our habits form us. And really, that's the way it goes. And then hurdles grow out of that. Hurdles grow out of the habits and the choices that we have. And they grow slowly, and they grow steadily. So I think really a question for you at this point is to say, what are my habits, and how have they formed me? Well, let me put it this way. What you are today, what you have become, what you have acquired is made up of all of the habits and decisions of your life. I found that life is a journey, it's a process, and all of your planning, your decisions, your thoughts have produced what you have become today. See, my success, my failure is hidden in what I say and what I do daily. That's the thing that creates my lifestyle, it creates my habits, and also decides my future. So everything's traced back to the thought life of a person. I mean, really, that's what it all comes down to. What comes out of you will shape your future. It'll shape your life. And this is where habits are formed. My habits decide my future. You got to understand this. Let's not blame here. Your future isn't forged by the psychic hotline. It's not forged by the government. It's not forged by the church. You show me your habits, and I'll show you your future. I can tell you where your life is going to go by one thing, just looking at your habits. Now, the sad part about that is that most people really want more than they have. I mean, they really do. But they're not going to get it. Because they've been sowing the wrong things. They've got the wrong habits. sowing the wrong habits for what they want. And so as a result, what you sow, that's what you're going to reap, baby. I'm telling you, your habits are going to show your future. What you do on a daily basis becomes permanent in your life. Aristotle wrote it like this. He said, we are what we repeatedly do. That really is well said. I mean, have you ever heard the statement, practice makes perfect? Really, that's wrong. Practice doesn't make perfect because you can be practicing the wrong things. Practice makes permanent. You keep practicing the wrong thing over and over and over again, you ain't ever going to get it right. So to break this cycle, what you're going to have to do is determine, how can I say this? Am I getting what I want out of life? And what are the things that I continually do that keep me inside this loop? What are my habits? See, it's easy to get a habit, but it's hard to break it. But somehow, man, I'm telling you, you got to make the decision to break that cycle, to break that loop. I heard the statement. I hate to just keep giving too many cliches, but they just all fit here. It said, the chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they're too strong to be broken. Man, I want to tell you something. I can relate to that. Reminds me of a sign on a country road that said, choose your rut carefully. You're going to be in it for a long time. Well, that's really the truth. You get into these things and it's like you never get out. So if you want to get out of a bad habit, if you want to get out of this self-defeating habit, you're going to have to go through the same process that you used to get into the bad habit, kind of repetition in reverse. Stop doing what doesn't work. You're going to have to determine this is not being fruitful and stop doing it. Stop doing what keeps producing what you don't want in your career, in your marriage, in your life. I mean, I think we could really call it insanity to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting somehow different results. I mean, you hope for something better. I understand that. I know you want something better, but somehow you think it's just going to sneak up on you by you holding on to all of the old stuff that you've done and not having to put forth the effort to make changes. I'm just telling you, you're going to have to apply yourself. I mean, we in this country are the originators of the couch potato. I mean, it's only us. Americans think that if you watch it, you did it. You watch the NFL, now you're a quarterback. You watch the exercise program. Of course, you're eating all the time. You think, woo, I feel better. Oh, man, but you didn't lose a pound. You literally didn't burn a fat cell. And I watch businesses and families go down the tube. Why? Hey, it's because you have to change something you're doing. You're going to have to change it. And if you've got wrong information, I'm just telling you something. I don't care what your intentions are. You act on bad information, you're going to get bad results. I love these ads. Eat all you want, lose 20 pounds. I'm thinking, dear Lord, I want that diet right there. But the fact is how gullible can we be to think that somehow we're going to get a different results from going over the same thing over and over and over? Here's the bottom line. We're entrenched in these bad habits, and it's produced things in our life that have brought us to the place that we are right now. And we're not going to change where we are until we change what we're doing. If you don't like the results, check your information. You don't like the results? I'm serious. Check the information, because the information is going to tell you when you're doing something wrong. If you don't pay attention, you're going to pay somebody. If you don't pay attention, you're going to miss the signs. You know what that means? You drive and you're talking on your phone or your whatever, and you might miss the exit. Have you ever done that? You've just been driving down the road and you think, oh man, I missed it. I missed it. What are the signs in your life? People stop coming to your business. Your wife says, I don't love you anymore. You haven't been watching for the signs. Things don't just fall apart in your family or your church or your business. There are signs. There are signs that tell you when something's wrong. Your body gives you signs. It tells you when something's wrong. Your mate, your career, your children, they withdraw, they become moody. I hear somebody say, well, I don't know why my son went out and killed 25 people. You didn't notice anything? I mean, there was no signs that told you something was wrong? Come on. I mean, my life is based on a collection of choices that I make. And those choices are going to produce signs that tell me along the way whether I'm on the right track or not. And I understand we're in a society that likes to blame everybody else when something's going wrong. Maybe that's just human nature. Blame somebody else. The excuses are the crutches for the uncommitted. Well, I just don't like to take responsibility for my actions. Well, nobody did. I mean, nobody wants to take responsibility for it. I mean, but we have to understand something, that there are consequences to what we do. Now, I know I'm going the long way around to this, but I'm just telling you something. If you want to change your life, you're going to have to see what brought you to the place where you are. Every seed produces what it's been pre-programmed to produce. Animal, human being, apples, watermelons. You're not surprised when you plant watermelons when you get a harvest of watermelons. Well, I just don't believe it works like that. Well, you believe what you want to say, but I'm just telling you something. We want to seed ourselves with things that are horrible and somehow come out smelling like a rose. We want to seed ourselves with drugs and not become an addict. We want to seed ourselves with illicit sex and not get AIDS. Things happen, and then we think, well, what happened? Well, why did I get fired? Can I just tell you this? A boss doesn't fire a good employee. They just don't do it. Well, it's somebody else's fault. Okay, whatever. I'm just telling you something. You always reap the kind of seeds you sow, and you can't blame anybody else for the harvest of your life. You have a responsibility for communication in your marriage. You've got a responsibility to love, to provision. And if you're having problems in your marriage, well, somehow you didn't plant the right seeds. You may have gotten away with it for a while, but something has brought you up to this point, and it didn't happen overnight. I promise it doesn't work like that. You shouldn't be surprised when she walked off with somebody else and left you. Now, let me just explain something to you. Your wife, if she left you, didn't say, well, I think I'm going to leave my husband for that man over there. They don't do it like that. In other words, you've been sowing to this for a long time, thinking that you could get away from the harvest, but you can't get away from it. You sowed seed, but it was the wrong seed. You had habits, but they were the wrong habits. Listen to me. Check the seed. What are you sowing? I don't know why I'm spending so much time talking about the family, but the fact is, sow toward your mate, sow toward your wife. I heard one fellow say one time like this. He said, women are incubators. That's why they have a womb and men don't. Whatever you give her, she's going to always take it, incubate it, multiply it, and give it back to you. You give your wife seed, she'll incubate it for 9 months and give you a baby. Give her money, she'll buy groceries and give you a meal. Give her a house and she'll take it and she'll turn it into a home. She's built for success. But give her trouble, she'll take it, incubate it, multiply it, and give it back to you in spades. You sow a wind, you're going to reap a whirlwind. So, here's the thing. You're going to have to sit and think, what have I been doing that's been sowing toward what I have been reaping? Okay? Now, once that happens, understand this. It is truly a process. It's a process. What kind of life do you want? What kind of marriage do you want? What kind of relationship with God do you want? What kind of career do you want? Start sowing in that direction. Start creating good habits. Let me give it to you like this. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a lifestyle. See, actually, a lifestyle is really nothing more than just a collection of my habits, and I can't blame anybody else for that. I'm not a victim of my hairstyle, my parents, my race. I choose how I'm going to respond. See, God doesn't make losers. They acquire that position by their self-destructive habits. And I'm telling you something, you're investing every day in your life. Every choice. Every time you open the refrigerator, you're making an investment. Every time you choose to give, you're making an investment. Every time you choose to close your ears to somebody crying for help, you're making an investment. Every time you say, honey, I love you, you're making an investment. And that investment is the very thing that has brought you to where you are right now. So see, the habits that we have, they develop lifestyles. The lifestyles produce hurdles. And the hurdles are things that are in our life, many times even unconsciously, but it keeps people away from us. Now, let me say one more thing about hurdles, and then we're going to do a diagnostic checkup on you, and then we'll close this out. Some hurdles you may choose to keep, and that's all right as long as you know they're hurdles. They could be the name of your company. They could be the location of your building. They could be the style of your hair. These may be things that you say, no, I'm going to keep this. I'm not going to make a difference. And if people can't handle this, then I'm sorry. Maybe we can't be in relationship. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with having hurdles, provided they're intentional. You may want some things in your life that you're not willing to make adjustments on or changes, and that's okay, just so long as you know. Now, let's talk about the 6-step diagnostic thing that I've laid out here for you, all right? Let me quickly run through these. Number 1, recognition. Get help if necessary. I don't care if you have to attend leadership seminars, go someplace, get outside your environment, see what other people are doing. Keep fresh input in what you're doing and allow yourself to compare what you're doing against what's working or not working in somebody else's life. So the first thing you've got to do is recognize that maybe something is wrong. Number 2 is evaluation. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, how severe is it? I always try to tell people, be brutally honest with yourself and lovingly honest with other people. How severe is the problem? And you can usually tell by how other people are responding to you. Sometimes we'll receive criticism from somebody and we just shut it out. We won't listen to it. But I like to listen to everything that's being said. My father told me one time, he said, always be open to constructive criticism or you'll never have the opportunity to change. Now, I'm not talking about destructive criticism. Destructive criticism is just, I don't like you and there's nothing you can do about it. But constructive criticism allows me to evaluate myself. And so I try to look at every negative thing, even if I think it's not true. I'll at least ask myself for a brief moment, is it possibility that I'm not seeing things right? Okay? You might say, well, that's just their perception. True, but that's what this whole session is about, isn't it? Is the fact that has become a hurdle to that person. And even if it's not true, it's reality to them. See, it may not be reality, but the perception on their side is become reality to them. So I need to really look at that because it's affected my business. It's affected my relationships. And I need to evaluate it so I can see what needs to be done. All right, number 3, set your objectives and your goals. Okay, in light of all of this, here's the things that I'm going to do to change. Here's the plan that I'm going to set in order. Number 4, start making the changes and start working that plan. Sometimes it takes different people, or maybe it takes changes in old people to kind of move you to the next level. Successful offices are planned in a deliberate measure to help people be productive. Sometimes you need to change your working environment. Sometimes you need to change your people. Whatever the case is, start making those changes and working those plans. All right, number 5, once you've done all of that, reevaluate again. In other words, are the changes and the plans working? The things I've implemented, are they producing results? And then number 5, remodify your plans based on that evaluation. Okay? The 10 Commandments are the only thing set in stone, so be flexible about this. Principles don't change, but application does. And as each generation begins to morph and develop, you need to understand that although the principles are rock solid, the applications sometimes need to change. And so we evaluate our presentation and our application. And we've got to continually do this if we want to work with people and remove the hurdles that are between us and the people that we want to draw. And if we don't do that, we're never going to progress. See, you may be a hurdler, but people around you may not be. So you want to try to create an on-ramp for those that are around you to have easy access into your life, into your business, or into whatever that you do in life. I just want to say thank you today for joining me, and really have enjoyed this time with you. If you want more resources, you can contact me at jerryedmon.com, and I'll get you all the resources that you need to help you move forward with success in life.
We hope you've enjoyed this podcast about success in life. If you would like more information about this subject or other materials or resources offered by Jerry Edmon, please go to www.jerryedmon.com.